guys, it's Spiffyguy and I'm back here with another gear video, and this time we're talking about the MSR Hubba Hubba NX backpacking tent. This is a lightweight two-person tent with a packaged weight of 3 pounds and 13 ounces, although that's what the manufacturer says. We'll go ahead and weigh the stuff up and find out what it's all about. But this is going to be my new replacement tent, and I should be taking this out on the next few adventures. I'd like to point out, though, that I did purchase this tent, on sale mind you, with my own money. So I'm not affiliated with MSR at all, but if they want to send me some gear to review, I'm not going to complain. Anyway, let's see what comes in the package and head on over to the picnic table. Alright, so what do we get for our money here with the MSR Hubba Hubba NX two-person tent? Well, you get a bag. This bag has some compression straps. It has a draw cord up at the top, and it's designed to hold your fly and your tent. It's a good place to put a wet tent. That way it doesn't mess with any of your other gear. You can kind of compress it around. The bag does add a little bit of weight. I will put all the weights to all the individual items down below, and we'll add them all up at the end. So you could probably get away without using this bag if you wanted to. And inside we have the tent and the fly. There is a nice little flap that kind of goes over before you cinch it up, and there's also instructions on the inside on how to set it up. You also get your poles. This is a single pole hub style. It has the one cross piece that gives us more vertical wall space, which is really useful. This is very common for a lot of tents in this classification. There's also instructions on the side of the pole bag as well. You also get your stakes and your guy outs. Now they send you these stakes right here. These are the MSR needle stakes. Okay, they give you 10 of them, and they also give you 4 guy outlines. Now the website says that it comes with the MSR mini groundhog. So if you watched any of my other videos, you know that I use the groundhogs, pretty specific, and I like those. The mini ones I was kind of interested to try. This is a new style stake that MSR is putting out in 2016, and they're shipping this tent with these. This is the mini, just sort of needle stake. So that's pretty much what you get. An optional item that you can purchase, which could be useful, is the fly here. The fly is about $40 to $50 depending upon where you look at it. It is specific to the tent itself, and it does fold up in its own little bag, which is sort of attached to it, which is kind of nice. The fly is not a necessity. It does produce a nice effect having that extra water barrier between you and the ground. Also helps protect the bottom of the tent, although the tent material is fairly durable. This will also allow you to do the fast pitch, which would just be the fly, the pole, and the footprint itself, and not use the mesh inner. It'd be useful if you want to go sort of a tarp scenario without the mesh inner during the winter, something like that. Allows you to lighten the load a little bit if you don't need that. You can also apparently set up the tent with just the poles and the fly itself, and of course stakes. I haven't tried that. We'll try it out and take a look at it. So let's stop yapping and go set up all this stuff. Set up a tent is pretty easy. On each corner they have a tie-out point with a little metal kind of grommet, and you'll just line up the grommets and stick the poles in the hole. So if you're using the footprint, line up both the footprint and the tent together and stick each pole in there. So once you have the poles in place, it's just a simple clip system to clip on the tent. Now, if it was raining, what you could do is you could set your fly up first. Use your footprint, and you just set up the fly, and once the fly is set up, then you can put the inner underneath and clip it in. And this clip system will give us the most amount of space in a light package. Now, for the cross pole, it does have a little bit of a movement to it. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that it's set up with a nice even bow. And once again, they've got a grommet system, a little metal grommet system for each one. Pull that down, snap that in place, and your tent is set up. I like to just kind of move it around a little bit just to make sure that it's as tight as possible. There you go. From there, we can stick the fly on, but let's take a look at the materials first. All right, so we'll put that fly on here in a second, but let's talk materials here. So the canopy, which would be basically all the white material you're seeing on the tent right now, is made of a 20D ripstop nylon with a durable waterproofing on that. They put a material on there to waterproof that. The mesh itself is a 15D nylon mesh, and it seems pretty solid. The floor, which is all the red material there, is a 30D ripstop nylon. It's rated at 3,000 millimeters, and it has a DuraShield polyurethane and waterproof coating as well. So you shouldn't have too much trouble with durability on the bottom. When you compare it to other tents in the class, like for example the Copper Spur, which uses a I believe it's a 20D fabric on the floor material. So I opted to add a little bit more weight compared to that Copper Spur and get that durability of that higher fabric on the bottom. The poles themselves are DAC Featherlight, which is pretty common for most of the tents these days, and the Rainfly itself is a 20D ripstop nylon with that DuraShield polyurethane and silicone coating. So let's go ahead and stick that Rainfly on. Okay, Rainflies are always a pain to put on. So one of the things that they did on this particular tent is they have different colored tie-outs for each side. They will have that same little grommet feature that you can put the poles in. So it's important though to make sure that you get the right tie-out for the right side. So line up the red. Now what's kind of odd here is you can see that there's this dark logo that actually goes on the inside. So it's a little confusing. If you can see these little red parts, these red parts need to go on the inside. Once you have it all set up, you can stake out the vestibles and also stake out the tent. You can utilize these nice little straps here to stake out directly where you need it. They don't have a stake hole on the grommet itself. Okay, once you have your vestibule staked out, you could stake down the tent if you want. In theory though, you don't necessarily need to if you're not going to be in heavy windy conditions. But they do have a similar stakeout point on either corner with this nice nylon thread and a nice big thick pole. So some of the features we have is we have additional tie-out points on each vestibule right there. We also have an additional tie-out point for a guy line right here. Now this is one of our vents. Let's take a look here. You can see that what they've done is they've utilized a small little piece of foam here and some Velcro. And it's a little hard to do one-handed, but if you pull that out and stick that in there, now you've got more ventilation. This will help ventilate when you have the fly on. And when you're not using it, you just stick right there, and then that can Velcro shut. It's pretty darn useful venting because, you know, you could have condensation issues when the fly is on. Although this is a double wall tent, so in theory, it shouldn't have as much problems as a single wall. You have an additional one over here. on the door, similar to the Guy outline, it's got reflective cord. And you have a nice Velcro attachment down here to keep this rain flap from flapping out. Standard, you have a little ring, a plastic ring and a toggle. And you just put that through there. And that's going to hold out your door. Should you want to open the door all the way, you can unhook it from your stake, continue around over this direction, and you have an additional toggle on this side as well to hold that door completely open. So if you're not in a high wind or rain scenario, you can put the fly in and get direct access to the door. Now the door itself here, if I can get to it, has double pulls. It opens quite wide, and it has that same toggle and ring system on the inside. So let's take a look at some of the interior stats. Okay, coming on the inside, you can see it's a little loose. If I staked out the footprint and the bottom of the tent, it would be a little bit tighter. But coming in here, what we've got is a tent that is 50 inches wide on both sides. So it doesn't taper at all. And it is 84 inches in length. So it's got quite a bit of space. I was actually very surprised. These crossbars really help keep these side walls vertical. And with the vertical wall down here, you have on either side a little mesh gear pouch. But because that wall is vertical and the side walls are vertical, it's just these sort of middle walls that have some angles on there, and you really have good headroom. Right along the peak here, if you sit up, you're not going to brush your head up against the side of the tent, which is a problem I've had on some others. So you can also get a hang-in gear loft, if you will. You've got some hanging points on either corner of this top piece there. So you can, you know, hang a line across. You could put up some clothes that needed to dry. You could hang a light up there. You could put in whatever it is that you wanted to do. Both vestibules are pretty spacious. Let's just kind of jump through here. You can see down in here that you are going to have plenty of room for a pack. You're going to be able to put your boots in here. And in theory, you should have no issues putting two people in here. Let me blow up my sleeping mat, which is a large X-Therm. It's 25 inches wide and it's 72 inches long. So let me blow that up in there. I'll stick that in there with me and we'll take a look and see what the space looks like. But you can see that in theory, it would be tight, but you could put two people next to it. If you take a look at my feet here, you can see that there's really, I'm a little close on it. Like I said, I could tighten up the lay a little bit better. But with a 25-inch pad, I don't see why you couldn't fit two next to it if you were putting your gear inside the vestibules. The vestibules give you, I believe it's about another 17 square feet worth of space out here. I don't particularly use those. Typically, I camp by myself. So you can see with my pad in there, I've got a good 8 to 12 inches on either side here. And I can definitely have enough room to leave my pack inside, which is traditionally what I would do. I don't necessarily like to put stuff out in the vestibules. That's just me. But I bring a minimal amount of gear and I'm able to basically use everything that I brought, and anything extra will go in my pack inside the tent. So I went ahead and staked out the tent body at the bottom. You can see that it stretches out and it does get tight. If you don't stake it out, it can be a little loose, but the bathtub floor is pretty much high enough that I've never had to worry about it so far in the few times I've taken it out. Another thing I like about this is the peak height of this tent, which is 39 inches. That's on the interior. That definitely gives me enough room to sit up. I can mess around inside of the tent and not have to worry about bonking my head or having to hunch over. Alright guys, we mentioned we could fast pitch this particular tent. Reasons being would be that we would want to use the tent without the mesh inner, like in the winter when we don't need bug protection, or we need to put it up before we put up the mesh inner part due to rain. So essentially you would just stake out your footprint and then you would lay your fly out over the tent and attach like you normally would with the little grommets into the poles. Now in theory, you could do this, the little grommets in the hole, without the footprint down. Oops. It may be a little bit harder, but you could do it. And if you were using a ground sheet such as a Tyvek or polycryo, you could use this just as an tent shelter and have your own ground sheet. So then we will just stake out our vestibule and we're good to go. You do have the gap at the bottom, but you could tighten that up, try to get that as low to the ground as possible. It may not be ideal in the winter, but you know, if you're looking to get into something that resembles tarp camping, this would be fast pitch would be a nice light way to carry it, because you're only carrying the footprint and the fly. You're not carrying that mesh inner. So there you go. There's another option. All right, guys. So that's about it for this quick video overview of the MSR Hubba Hubba NX two-person backpacking tent. It's a lightweight tent, has a lot of good livability room and good ventilation. So if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and post them below or stick them up on my Facebook page. And make sure to like, subscribe, and you know, share this video. It helps to get the word out on the channel, and it also lets me know what kind of content you guys like to see. So just remember that life's an adventure, and go out and have one with your MSR Hubba Hubba.